Hello, and welcome to the Richness of New Beginnings. It's wonderful to be here today, and I thought as we launch into a new year, it would be a great time to talk about new beginnings. I think it's just so appropriate, and also just for a sneak preview, we have really some great guests coming up to talk about the richness of as we proceed this year with our filming. But for today, let's talk about the richness of new beginnings. And you know, we're constantly navigating new beginnings, whether it's new relationships, new friendships, new career opportunities, you know, launching into a retirement, you know, our kids launching. So there's always changes and things happening. And for today, I really want to chat about, like, you know, so how do you navigate new beginnings? How do you really do it, you know, with grace, right? I find that in life, the biggest pain and suffering so often comes from holding on or resisting or struggling. So how do we really kind of, instead of resisting and struggling, how do we learn to let go and go with the flow so that we can really enjoy what's happening and not really put ourselves through any unnecessary pain? So when I think of new beginnings, you know, I think sometimes a great way to approach it is thinking about the chakras, right? We have 7 different points where we have chakras running through our system. So I think for today too, let's talk a little bit about them and how we use those as we're navigating changing and new beginning. So when I think about making a change or being open to a change or embracing a change or hopefully not resisting a change, you know, you think about it happening, right? It happens, you know, this is the crown chakra, the top of your head, right? This is kind of where it all, to me, starts. Some people say that it finishes there. I think it kind of starts there. I think it's kind of the new beginning. And your crown chakra is enlightenment, right? So that's when you're thinking about something different and how you're going to approach something different. And to me, like, you know, it's so important too, as we're thinking about new beginning, whether it's a beginning that we really are anticipating that we want for ourselves, or whether it's something that's just kind of thrown upon us in life and that we have to navigate, right? If we tap into our crown chakra, we tap into here, I almost call it finding your truth, right? And so many times, you know, we wonder, is it the right choice? Should I be doing it? Should I not be doing it? Am I crazy to be thinking about this? And I think that, you know, the answers really kind of lie here, right? And it is about finding your truth. And we all tend to have these opposing voices, right? We have the voice that's very kind of coming from your mind, and that tends to be the more conservative voice, the more fear-based voice, the voice that's telling you, oh my God, well, are you going to really do this? Or are you going to be able to handle this? Or could it work out? Or could this be very scary for us to navigate, right? And then you have the other voice that's coming more from your heart, and that's more spirit. And they do say, right, I don't know if you've ever heard of the expression, but it says that the mind screams and the heart whispers. And it's so true. And I think that that's where the beauty of quiet and stillness, and, you know, whether you do it through yoga, you do it through meditation, you do it through just being outside and walking in nature, whenever, you know, if it's in the morning having your coffee, however you get your quiet time, that's a really good point where you can really try to quiet what's going on up here so that you can really get to what's the truth, you know, what's going on in your heart. And I would say that after we kind of make peace and start to understand what that new beginning is going to be, the new transition, and then it goes into what's called the third eye chakra, which is literally between your eyebrows. And they say that that's your intuition. And so many times, right, and at least I know for me, when we second guess our intuition, it does not work out as well, right? And so many times we don't trust ourselves. But I think that, again, as changes are happening and new beginnings are coming, it is so important to be quiet and to embrace, right, what your intuition, what your gut instinct is telling you is the best way to approach it. And when we kind of think about, again, the intuition, this color is almost a blue. So I tend to use, this is a chakra kit, and it's really kind of helpful because it has all the different stones in it that represent the different chakra colors. But like I was saying, right, that particular stone is blue, and it's the third eye chakra. And then when we move beyond this chakra, we go into what's called, the throat chakra right here. And as we're embracing change and embracing your beginnings and thinking about doing things a little bit differently, I think it's really important how we communicate it, right? So often we communicate something and we say, oh, I'm trying to make a change, or I'm trying to get comfortable with this. And again, I think it's all how we express. And when we say things like trying, it just is very limiting, right? Trying is like you haven't succeeded quite yet, you're dipping your toe in. So again, even things on how you communicate it to yourself and how you communicate it to friends and family and coworkers makes a difference. So as you're thinking about making the change, right, they say that there's a lot of success with what we say and what we hear, right, and how we approach things. So how important it is, right, to say it in a way that it sounds more powerful. So instead of me saying, I'm trying to embrace this new workout activity. If I say, I'm striving every day for this new workout activity, or I'm working towards this every day, it just sounds a little bit more powerful, both to yourself, it's more convincing for yourself, and it's also more convincing for others that are listening to you. So again, communication is so important. And it's funny, when you think about the throat chakra, or you think about communication, I'm a big believer that a lot of our illnesses or things that happen to us, right, we hold stress and we hold things in different parts of our body. And to me, it's kind of interesting, particularly women, right? I know that so many times we don't want to say anything that can potentially offend somebody, or we don't want to say something that can maybe make somebody feel uncomfortable. But again, the importance of speaking your truth and speaking in a wise fashion, I think is really key. And then, again, as we're embracing change, right, the next chakra is your heart chakra, right, which is right at the center of your chest. And again, I think that that's a key too, as you're going through changes, right, or going through new beginnings or starting something. Like, how does that feel to you, right? How does it feel like a good path for you? And again, the heart chakra is key, I think, in terms of how we connect with others. So how are we being loving as the change is happening? So many times when we're in change mode or new beginnings, there's a lot of fear, and we tend to, sometimes when we're in a fearful state, be a little bit more maybe not as warm or as loving, but we could be a little bit more reactive. So how do you, again, kind of connect with heart? And, I always think that because we all have a choice, we can choose love. So even when we're uncomfortable, or we're not feeling good, or we're feeling a little bit tense about some of the changes coming, I think the heart is a beautiful place to try to get balance and to get peace and to connect. I always say to my kids, right, it's better to be kind than to be right. So, I think, again, connecting with kindness, with love is important for yourself, and also for those, right, that are kind of navigating this change with you, that are on the path. So coming from a kind, loving place, I think, is key. And then from the heart, you go down almost above the belly button, and that's your solar plexus, and that's kind of where our strength comes in. And you ever get that feeling in your stomach when you're uncomfortable, you're scared, you're nervous, the butterflies? A lot of it is like right there in your strength, your powerhouse. And again, as we're navigating changes, as we're navigating things that are new, we tend to feel a little bit weak sometimes. There's so much uncertainty. But again, how do you kind of empower yourself to go from that uncertainty and that fear-based, right? Because when we think about it, fear and hope can't occupy the same space. So how do we kind of use our strength, right, to build a little bit of hopefulness for our new beginning? I'm in the middle of a move right now, and it's fabulous. I like my new place, and but yet, part of me, it's like you're letting go of something that's been known to you, that at my comfort level, my views that I've learned to love, the home, my comfort level. But again, how do you come from a place of strength, and acceptance and the new beginning and being comfortable around it, right? So again, I think tapping into your strength is really key. And then, then you have your kind of we call it your sacral chakra. And again, I think that just applies on how are we taking care of ourselves, right? Whether we're a woman or man or whatever, how are we taking care of ourselves as we're navigating changes and new beginnings? And, and then I think it all ends, right? It all ends when your root chakra, right? And that is kind of how you balance. Your root chakras are really interesting because your root chakras have gotten you to arrive on where you are today, right? And how you see life, on how you navigate changes, on how you navigate family. It's kind of your foundation. And the beauty of the root chakra with anything that we're doing, right? The beauty of it is that as we're growing, as we're changing, our roots continue to just get deeper and stronger, right? So, and I always love the analogy of a tree, right? If you look at a tree, right, in the middle of a storm, right, and we can kind of make the bridge that when we're going through life changes, right, even if they're positive new beginnings, it's still a lot of change and uncertainty. But if you observe a tree, right, the branches that stay on and stay intact are the ones that kind of go with the wind and go with the flow, and they stay. The ones that really kind of are brittle and strong, right, those tend to break off. So, I think nature is always such a great lesson for us too, as we're embracing different things and how nature naturally does it. So again, the tree, some of the branches will come off, but however, there will be new branches that continue to grow and thrive and are appropriate for the climate that you're in that part of your life. And at the same time, right, the roots, even though we can't necessarily always see it, the roots of the trees are getting stronger. And just like we are too, when we're going through change and we're going through things, if we're doing the work and we're connecting, like we've talked about, right, with all the different senses, and it doesn't mean you have to tap into all 7 chakras when you're going through changes, but you will tap into, right, and focus on the ones that you need. And the other thing that again, I love nature, and I think we can learn so much from nature. Even as we're going through change, I always look at the analogy of the ocean, right, the water. There's days that, the water is beautiful and it's crystal clear, and there's not a lot of activity, and it almost looks like glass, and it just looks peaceful. And then there's days when it's stormy out, and, you're getting like the waves and the crashing. And if you think about, swimming in the ocean, right? If we're only swimming on top, right, we're subject to the weather, right? So if it's a beautiful day and it's calm, we're going to have a nice calm swim. If it's a stormy day and it's rocky out there, we're going to get tossed around and we're not going to be as comfortable. And it's the same thing, I think, right? When we're going through changes and new beginnings, if we stay on the surface level and we don't really do any of the thinking about it and the processing, we're kind of going to be at the mercy of whatever's happening around us, whoever is involved in that change with us, how they're affected, we're going to allow it to affect us, and we're not going to be as and I don't want to say control because it's not control, so maybe we'll say you're not in as much of a good flow. And with the ocean, right, so think of the difference. When you're swimming up top, you're kind of dealing with whatever the climate nature is giving you. When you dive in, when you go deep and you go underneath, what happens? You get that beautiful quiet, you get that stillness, that peace, and it doesn't matter what's going on up here or what's going on outside, because once you're deep and you're underwater, it's just you always kind of, the ocean, the water stays a little bit more calm and flowy. So as you're going through changes and transitions, a new year, new beginnings, we all have new goals and things that we want to achieve or things that we want to do differently. Again, take the time, right? So many times we start the year with these new, massive goals, but we don't really take the time to think about how to really accomplish them, right? I mean, a goal is just a goal if it's on paper and we're not working towards it. We have to change our mindset that when we want a new beginning, when we're trying to change, even if it's something good and something that we really want, there are different phases of change, and we have to kind of address them and do the work so that we can navigate and enjoy the entire process of the change, and and not go through that where we have these goals and we don't think about it, we don't work on it, and then all of a sudden, before we know it, we're midway through the year and it's summer and we're enjoying, so we have to put it on hold, and then all of a sudden, before we know it, it's Thanksgiving, and then it's Christmas, and then you push it off to the next year, and the worst part is we don't feel good about ourselves, right, when we don't make the changes. So I think that as we're approaching New Year with new beginnings, maybe some new things that we want to implement, the importance of not just dreaming about it, but the importance of really every day, right? Weaving it into the fabric of your day and giving it some thought and taking baby steps to make those new beginnings, those changes happen. So I want to start wrapping up by saying again, to really honor yourself, take time to think about what it is that you want to achieve, and the power, right? The power that there is, again, like we talked about, by verbalizing it, right? When we verbalize things, right, we tend to hear it and we tend to process it better. So whether we're telling ourselves and our friends and our family, so verbalize it, visualize it, have them written down, look at the goals that you're setting, and and more importantly, right, be loving and kind to yourself. I always think that so often the way we speak to ourselves is so much harsher than how we would speak to one of our partners or our friends or a coworker, right? But with ourselves, we tend to be a little bit harsher in language. So I think part of the whole change and beginning and doing things well is also taking a different approach on how we treat ourselves. I remember one time, kind of going for a run and thinking, oh, I could have handled that so much better, and I could have done this and I could have done that, and I must have really kind of kept replaying the story in my head in a negative way. And then I just remember, just kind of got this humorous laugh. I remember thinking, if anybody ever spoke to me this way, I wouldn't want to hang out with them. I feel like this is a little negative, right? And then it just made me realize, right, that the way that I talk to myself, right, needs to be a little bit more gentle and kind. So thank you so much for joining us in the Richness of New Beginning. We're looking forward, like I said, we've got some really great guests coming up to talk about different ways to enrich your life and make it better and bring on new goals and new things and new perspectives. So I look forward to seeing you again, and have a great rest of your day.